Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, March 10th, 7:20 a.m. Eastern. Garrick Hodge is here, Mark Porter is here, and I am here, Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change, and you say to yourself, why are we here so early? I asked that question, believe me. My dog did. Spring practice starts today. It is a holiday, people. We will have the whole crew out at the first day of spring practice. Kicks off at 8:30 a.m. Garrick, you will be there to record both the emotions and the photos. Your thoughts on what you'd like to see today, what people can expect to see out of the day. We will not get to see the details of Art Smith's third down offense.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect a very schematic heavy report. In fact, they specifically request, okay, when you write your recaps, keep it to player individuals only and don't exactly report on how Arthur Smith is aligning his tight ends, right? But no, this is an exciting day. It's kind of like the first day of school, really, because with 43 new players on the roster, you're going to get the, all right, here's everybody's number sheet, and then everybody on the beat is just going to get the sheet right here and then go, okay. What number is this guy? What number is this guy? Especially for my purposes.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Photographer, I'm going to be like, oh, God, okay, so James Smith is wearing what number? Quay Rusaw is wearing what number? Okay, Legend Bay, a freshman, are coming in. But especially in a year where Ohio State signed 28 freshmen and 27 of them are going to be on campus ready to rock and roll today. I think that both us and the Bucknutters are excited to see some new blood in scarlet and gray. I think it's kind of exciting when you have this many new people because it gives you a lot of us don't really know quite what we're going to get from these newcomers that we've talked so much about for months, but now we're finally going to be able to see these guys in person, get a feel for their build, get a feel for what they can contribute on a basis. Now, we're only going to get to watch about an hour, so like Dan said, we're not going to get quite the good stuff, but it'll be enough for photos. We're going to have a very hopefully complete photo gallery. An hour is enough time to usually get a lot of the new guys up on Bucknuts later today. I will do my best to get a photo of Sayan's neck. A lot of times the quarterback are the furthest away from the media viewing section, and part of me thinks that's by design, but we digress. So honestly, I'm just kind of giddy. I'm kind of jacked. You can say I already have my jacket on. So because as soon as we log off here, I'm heading straight down to where Ohio State practices. So I'm ready to go. Dan's ready to go. Mark's ready to go. And a lot of the recruits are ready to go too, because this is the first day that Ohio State can really start hosting. Well, they could earlier, but this is the first time they want to start hosting recruits on visits because it's their first of 15 spring practices, culminating with the spring game in April 18th. And Ohio State recruits and the targets, they're in for a nice, not surprise, but they're going to get to see Arthur Smith. They're going to get to see Matt Patricia, and they're going to get some one-on-one time with these guys. And we got a couple interesting recruits that are coming to town today that we'll gladly get to in a few minutes.
I'm always interested to see like the depth chart, so to speak, even though it might be kind of publicly friendly the first day, but you kind of get an idea who goes with the first team and then who the backup is in the second team. And then you start to shape that, okay, here's who they've pitted against each other, or here are the rotations. And you never want to read into that stuff too much on day one, but there is certainly some seniority going to the older guys. You get the first crack at it, but it's where do they have those younger guys that are, coming in, straight out of high school to get into spring ball and have enrolled early. The legend, I can't wait to see guys like that. But what kind of reps did they get in the team period? Are they pre-grooming them already for their role, or are they, making them earn it from the ground up? Do you start at wide receiver 6 with him and see if he can get the wide receiver 2 or 3? So that stuff was always interesting to me based on who got divvied up the reps.
You know where the depth chart is? Right here, because I don't know if Ohio State has released a depth chart in what years, but I mean, we all try to compile a depth chart together when we see guys in team action, and who knows if we'll get any of that today or if that'll have to come April 4th when we usually get to watch the entire practice because it's Student Appreciation Day. But yeah, like you said, Mark, we're going to start to fit some of those pieces in the puzzles and exactly where guys are on the depth chart. Probably you're going to have to take with a grain of salt this entire spring because a lot of things can change. For example, Bo Jackson and Isaiah West aren't able to compete in the spring because they're nursing minor injuries. But to the other hand, that's going to open up opportunities for a guy like a Favor Key, a guy like Legend Bay to get carries in the backfield. So I'm excited to watch running backs in particular because your top two ball carriers, Isaiah West and Bo Jackson, are out for the entire spring while they recover. Should be good to go for the fall from what we understand. But that's one position that I'm really excited to watch kind of going forward here over the next few weeks.
Mark, in general, what do you want to see out of guys physically? People are jesting on here because I've said I want to see some extra poundage on Julian for two reasons. One, to withstand the beating. Two, it may make him – actually three reasons. Two, it might make him more eager to run. And three, guys who've been in the weight room and look all jacked up usually had a good off season. Usually means they're on their P's and Q's. They're ready to roll. It makes a real difference. Like, it's unfortunate, and it doesn't mean they're going to struggle. But Bo Jackson and Isaiah West getting surgery, every offseason you have a surgery is a challenge. You just don't have that clean slate to get back ready, and football is a prep sport. Mark, what do you look for specifically out of guys the first time you see them?
Well, this defense, you're going to see who's out there. But when you're watching them, the conditioning of the guys and how they're running to the ball and their discipline, stuff like that, all the little things that lead to bad football. They break in the huddle. That first day is a lot of who gets in the huddle and who flies up to the ball, gets down in the stance, knows what they're doing, knows their assignment, isn't lined up backwards, doesn't run the wrong assignment. I think mentally is really the first couple of days of spring ball. I think everybody, whatever, but when you said the physical part of it, I think I've been telling us, hey, our offensive line needs to get their Madden ratings up, and it's hard to quantify that. It's hard. It's not like they're walking with a number over their head like, hey, he's an 89 overall rating now. Remember when he was an 83? It's really
not yet. You just gave NBC an idea, but go ahead.
Yeah, okay, Garrett, I want Madden ratings after practice on every player and which ones went up or down a couple beats. And, you as the spring goes on, you sit there one day as coaches and you go, you know what? Our left guard looks really good. Coming out of there, that he really did. There's more pop in his feet. There's more, his hands are heavier. And you start to quantify those gains in a football sense. And you don't do that day one. It goes to the live periods. I don't know if you'll get a live inside run today where they go at it for 10 minutes, at least the linemen and the defensive line. And, you really try to protect yourself in those periods. You don't want anything stupid happen in spring, but you want to know who's progressed. And the same thing on the defensive line, what Madden ratings over there, because we have newbies and we don't even know what their ratings really are. And this is always the thing in spring ball. If you're the head coach, if the offense does good, are you questioning your defense? And if the defense does good, are you, you're kind of fighting back and forth. Like, are we really good on offense? Or are we really bad on defense? You just don't know until you see it. Mesidor and Bain and the defensive line from Indiana. And then there's your test to see if, it's really working. But I think those are the things, if I'm the head coach, I'm trying to figure out before the rest of the Big Ten knows. I want to know about my guys and have a sense. And that's what spring ball is about.
This is a complete digression for only 10 seconds. I was thinking about this the other day. I'm going to ask a player this year, who was the hardest hitting team you went against last year? I think it was Indiana. I think when I think back on it, one of the things about Indiana is they're older, but those guys hit really hard. I know that sounds very basic when it comes to football. It's like, wow, they hit really hard. That actually hurts. So that's my digression. I'm going to get to that one at some point. All right, Garrick, let's talk about the other side of this, and that is, guess who likes to come to practices? Potential recruits. And this is a holiday of sorts, so you're going to get some interesting guys there. Garrick has already begun to prep you for April 4th, which will be, I don't know how this happens. Every year we get these days that pop up on the calendar. There's reasons for it, but they tend to fit for about a lot of recruits. And then you get these days that build and kind of take on a life of their own. April 4th is gathering much steam, as it were. But at least today, Garrick, who do you expect to be there? And I'll say this: it is spring practice, and it is the off season. Things come up. Guys will say they're going to be at practice, and then who knows? They got a flat tire. That's a little basic, but it's literally the managing of a million schedules, and people can come now or come later. So we have an expected guest list, and guess what? Some guys just show up. We didn't know we're going to be there too. So, Garrick, what do you expect to see today? And then, of course, we will be locked into your post-practice observations to see what actually happened.
Yeah, Dan, you hit the nail on the head that recruiting visitor lists are not for the faint of heart.
Fluid.
Yes. Sometimes they change on a whim for both the good and for the bad, but that's another digression for another podcast. So there's 4 today that I'm really focusing on, and then there's a couple other interesting ones that we can get into a little bit, but 4 in particular, and one of them we've mentioned on the show multiple times, and that's defensive lineman Marcus Ficado, the 6'6", 275-pounder out of Orange County, California. And honestly, this is a really intriguing visit to me because this is Ohio State's shot to really kind of emerge as one of the elite contenders in his recruitment. Right now, it's very Notre Dame, very USC heavy, and there's a lot of other blue bloods in the recruitment for a top 60 prospect in the country because why wouldn't they be, right? But Marcus, to give you a little bit of background, he was a 2028 recruit. He reclassified to 27 in the fall. That made his recruitment obviously speed up quite a bit, and schools have pursued him a lot quicker and a lot more with heavy intent. And I think Ohio State is really intrigued by this guy. I think that this is kind of all right, let's see if this is a fit for both parties, both on the modern front and the traditional front. Marcus is going to get an opportunity. Yeah, I know. Infer what you will.
No, I was phrased beautifully.
Yes, but I think Marcus is going to get an opportunity to get some one-on-one time with the coaches today. He's going to be able to watch practice. He's going to be able to see, a James Smith come in or a Zion Grady, what he looks like in year 2. Kenyatta Jackson, what a guys look like for a whole career at Ohio State. So he's going to have the opportunity to watch how those guys have progressed, watch how Matt Patricia coaches his defense, watch how Larry Johnson coaches in individual drills. So if he comes out of here this week and Ohio State hasn't moved some momentum, they're probably going to consider other options. But that's a story for a couple days from now. But the headline here is that he's going to have an opportunity to get to know Ohio State, and Ohio State's going to have the opportunity to get to know him. And if everything goes well, they'll be right in the mix for an official visit in the spring.
I do like the fact that, keep in mind, he's from California, like you said. So for him to be here on the first day of spring practice is somewhat noteworthy. Back in the day, Dwayne would probably declare him a Buckeye because we got the first visit. It was the first and last, as Garrick alluded to. There's another aspect to recruiting now. And you mentioned Kenyatta Jackson. If he looks at he's going to walk next to Kenyatta Jackson, because I believe my guy is say the last name for me one more time. Maricado.
Ficado.
Ficado.
Yeah.
He's plays some outside, some inside, and he's going to walk past Kenyatta Jackson. And the name Dave gave Kenyatta Jackson was Central Casting. He is going to be a lot smaller than Kenyatta Jackson and be like, that's a defensive end?
Right.
Good Lord. I mean, that is a pro's pro right there. Seriously, Kenyatta Jackson, if he doesn't make it in the NFL, can go to Hollywood and star as NFL player. You know what I'm saying? Like the guy used to always be on Chips. That's such a blast. But so that's also a good impression for him to check out there. Is there anyone else we need to keep an eye on, or is that the rotators?
No, we got 3 more interesting ones.
Great.
Number 2, Mark can talk about quite a bit because he knows him quite well, and that's Kellen Wymer, Ohio offensive lineman, already committed to Ohio State in the 27 class, and he's had a huge rise in his recruiting ranking over the past couple months. Rated in the top 50 prospects in the country, going from unranked in the top 247. Really has established himself as one of the best offensive linemen in the country. I've been told that he's got some Luke Montgomery to him. So if you want to make that comparison, think of it what you will. Mark, what say you to that comparison?
Hold on a sec, Mark. Can you let us know what you expect from Kellen Wymer positionally? height, weight, stuff. Because he doesn't. In fact, they used one of your pictures. I don't know if you saw this when they did the national story. He was such a high riser that he was the picture for the story, and it was one of the ones that we got. He's actually playing defensive line in the picture.
Yeah, and that's when we went to see him early in the year. What blew me away is watching him along that defensive line, and of course he was going both ways, and he had a motor. It's not like he was wearing down or had a big guy body to him where you could see the heavy breathing, which leads me to say on offense, he's an athletic offensive lineman. All three of the linemen we have in Ohio, this Seaman, Wilt, and Wymer, are all very athletic. Wilt might be the biggest and the brawler of the bunch, but the other guys are probably going to be headed inside. You know, they're athletic guys that can zone block. And if you're going to zone block as a center, you got to be able to get up to linebackers or handle a big, monstrous 300-pound center, which you got to have the feet and the strength. And that's a rare combo to have that size and strength. I said Wymer was a lot like the Findlay lineman, Luke Montgomery, but he's also a little bit like Jack Mewhort. And those are both guys on the western side of Ohio. So if you hybrided Jack Mewhort and Luke Montgomery together, you kind of have a Wymer, but they cut out of that same mold. Very athletic, but I don't think he'll play defense in college, but he has the ability to if you ever needed to. And I say that with a lot of Buckeyes. Oh, he's a receiver now, but he could play DB and vice versa, and that's always a compliment.
I love Jamison Williams as a safety. You want to watch someone throw their body at people? Go watch Jamison Williams' high school film. It is unbelievable that a guy that – I mean, remember how fast he was? He was not thick. My dude came for it. Yeah, Wymer is interesting. I'm thinking center, personally. If you look at the way they've recruited and you just want to, like, ideally, hey, we got these 5 guys at these 5 spots, Wymer, because he is the opposite of a floppy belly. You know what I mean? Like if you go look at it, he looks almost like an outside linebacker's body at this point, like a tight end guy.
I say sometimes that tight end body.
I like it. I'm not complaining.
Like the 1990s tight end, you know, where you were in double tights and a fullback all the time, and all they did was run drag routes and flat routes. Yeah, that type of tight end. The Jake Ballard type of tight end from the 90s was it 90s with the Buckeyes? Was he that old? Jeez.
He's after the 90s.
2000s.
Springboro grad, had a couple really good years with the Giants, I remember.
Yeah.
Good for him. Recruits 3 and 4 from Garrick.
All right. There will be another one that Mark knows here, so I'll save it last. But the third one that I'll talk about is another one that we've brought up on the show before. A surprise, surprise. And his name is Sean Curry. And if that name rings a bell, he's the tight end from Virginia and the first recruit that Arthur Smith called upon his official hiring. So maybe a coincidence, maybe not. But I think that Sean Curry, and to give you guys an idea of his frame, he's 6'7", 230 pounds. So this is a guy that Arthur Smith probably looked at, saw some film, and he's like, that guy can set an edge on a block. Give me that guy. He's a Virginia commit right now, just recently visited Penn State, visiting Ohio State now. So he's certainly open to exploring other schools. And then this might help you remember him a little bit better. He was the lacrosse player.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Yep.
I spoke with him last month, and he's already kind of admitted, it's probably not going to be a future for me doing both sports. It would be nice. I haven't completely ruled it out, but I know that I'm probably going to be football only. Sean Curry's a guy I'm really excited about the potential of, because he's a 3-star recruit now. But like you said, they don't teach 6'7" and 230 pounds. This is a guy that can be a willing blocker and learn the zone fit. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And the other thing about him, too, is he's got some agility and mobility on him. So he can be a weapon in the passing game, even though I think he's probably a better blocker, better utilized as a blocker, I should say, at his size. But and especially with how open-ended I think Ohio State is at tight end, because I think Brock Williams is a pipe dream at this point. So really? I think it's pretty close to down to Georgia and Texas, if I'm being honest. So I think that the board for tight end is going to be opened up quite a bit, and Sean Curry seems like a guy that could be a great fit for Ohio State.
There is a track record, too, of even at Virginia, lacrosse players becoming great pros. You guys can Google the name. Patrick Kearney was a defensive end who played lacrosse at Virginia, and I think he made the Pro Bowl for the Falcons defensive end. He's like a multiple sack guy. The greatest lacrosse player of all time. You guys know who it is?
No.
Jim Brown. All right, yep. Here's the only problem. Jim Brown played at Syracuse, and that was before they had rules on the sticks. And his stick was about this big, and he would just run down the field like this, and then poof, no one was tackling or stopping Jim Brown. Other guys.
All right, last one, and then
Garrick, do you want to say something about him?
Yeah, when you say Arthur Smith, as soon as you said this tight end, I'm like, this Arthur Smith has a pretty good history with tight ends in the NFL. And the one that came to mind is, remember what he did with Darnell Washington this year with the Steelers, the 6'7", 290-pound tight end? Doesn't this guy sound like that type of role in development? And, of course, Freiermuth was 6'5", 258, but he's used a variety of tight ends. He likes the speed tight end, whether it was Jonnu Smith he brought in to go with that bunch. He had Kyle Pitts. He had Delaney Walker, who was like a 4-4 tight end. So I think Arthur Smith is a connoisseur of tight ends is what I wanted to. There is no one style. When I look back at the Tennessee tight ends, the Atlanta tight ends, and the Pittsburgh tight ends, he's got one of all shapes and sizes in his room, and they all have, like you're saying, this one sets the edge. This one's the one we run versus man beaters. This is the one we motion. So good news for the tight ends at Ohio State. And if you're being recruited by him, he's had a nice history of tight end development in the NFL. But the Darnell Washington gimmick this year with the Steelers, if you remember watching, how many times down the goal line did they just throw it up to that 6'7" guy and create one-on-ones for him? And, the rumor was he was over 300 pounds. But
it's not a rumor. Steelers tight end Darnell Washington says he weighs 311 pounds.
Yeah.
Washington, who's listed at 6'7", 264 on the Steelers official website, revealed ...
Yeah.
267 to 311. Dude, my son gets listed at 6'2", and he's 6'1". Now I feel good about it. We should have listed him at 6'8".
I mean, who are you fooling?
That's 50 pounds.
Who are you fooling?
By the way, he looks all bit of – I would have guessed 340. Yeah, I've never seen anything like him running down the field. You watch the corners; they are heading for ankles at that point. That is hilarious.
That's a peewee football trick to miss height guys.
In peewee, that guy's not allowed to carry the ball.
Yeah,
they have the weight requirements on that guy. Otherwise, you have anyway. All right, we're digressing too much, Garrick. The fourth and final esteemed visitor.
Yeah, at this point, I won't even get into the other names to know. I'm going to make the Bucknutters go to Bucknuts if they want to read some other interesting names. But the last one we're going to mention on the show today is cornerback Deontay Malone. And that's Mark's guy that he was able to watch in person, so I'll let him gush about Deontay in a little bit. But I think that this is a in-state guy from Massillon that's rising up on Ohio State's recruiting board as the months go by. I think that today could be a good opportunity for he and Tim Walton to continue to develop that strong relationship. He'll get a chance to see Tim Walton coach. He'll get a chance to see Matt Patricia coach. Everything that we said for Marcus Ficado is going to be true for Taelyn. They're going to continue to emphasize to him that he's a priority to them in their 27 class. And honestly, I like Taelyn a lot. But why hear it from me when you can hear it from Mark, the guy that witnessed firsthand against possibly the best quarterback in the state in 2028?
Oh, geez. Deontay Malone, when we watched him, I think the first thing we all noticed is he was much thicker than we had thought.
Height, weight, speed, what do you got?
We figure 5'11" for sure. He was probably 185. He pushing the 190. He looks good in shorts and a T-shirt. There is no frailness or flat chest or anything you got to worry about there. He could be a safety. He could be a corner. He kind of has that, grit to him where he comes up and tackles you. On offense, he's lights out. He had over 1,000-yard year. It was crazy the returns he had under pressure. In fact, Massillon's offense got a little stale at times, and a lot of times the kick return game is what provided the boost, and he kind of won a couple games with his, the special teams prowess. I liked him a lot a year ago, and, I think you said it right. He's one of those guys that we weren't sure. Was he a first-day pick, a second-round draft pick? Is he a third-day pick? How does Ohio State value him? And the more he's around those coaches and the more they get familiarity, it's amazing how you kind of bump up that list a little bit and make it easier for yourself to get some NIL when they really want you.
Do you know, based on the people you've spoken to, how he feels about Ohio State? Does he have any other schools that he really likes? Are there any other schools that have gone gaga over him? I know this is not necessarily your wheelhouse, but he is kind of in your circle there.
Yeah, no, and he has a circle around him that he trusts of advisors and, whatever you want to say, relatives and coaches. And I think it's at Massillon, it's kind of a slow play. I think they do a lot of visiting, and I think they go a lot of places and really not enjoy the process, but feel the process out, not make a quick decision. I think the Ohio State offer came in strong. I did talk to him right after he got it, and there's always that glow that kids have when they get the Ohio State offer that, oh, wow, this one feels a little different. It feels a little different than the Michigan State or the Wisconsin, or, boy, there's a lot more reporters calling for this one. But without speaking for him, I know this was a big offer for him to get.
Good. The only problem is schools like that also have enough backing and spine that they don't necessarily always choose Ohio State. You don't feel like they're you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're not obligated. They're going to make a complete decision. Now, clearly, in-state guys that get an offer, man, that used to be just solid gold. That was a guarantee. We used to have like a list of guys who were offered by Ohio State and didn't come. It was not a long list, especially if you were not at a Catholic school playing offensive line in Cincinnati. But the list has grown because of the new era. Now, we've taken many people from other states, but it is a new deal. All right, Garrick, we're going to talk about Taelyn Mayo today. Cornerback. Mark's going to break down on our Buckeye in the Sky. Before we do that, Mark mentioned during his chatter earlier on offensive lineman about Davis Seaman, probably the top Ohioan with an offer on the offensive line that's not committed to Ohio State, and I would say yet. I think it would be a surprise to many, especially the three guys on this show, if he did not become a Buckeye. He's Bishop Watterson. Am I correct with that? Kind of a perennial Catholic school power, or at least Catholic school program in the Columbus area. So we'd be surprised if he did not matriculate. And to that end, yesterday we ran the offer evaluation for Davis. If you want to get a chance to see Mark break him down on film, definitely go check that out. You'll get to see the deets like you will get to see on Taelyn Mayo here in a minute. Garrick, please introduce us to Taelyn Mayo, Taelyn Mayo, and a cornerback of much interest.
Yeah, Taelyn Mayo was a guy that camped at Ohio State last June and really just dazzled Tim Walton and the rest of the Ohio State coaching staff. He held up and covered extremely well. He moved extremely well. Just everything we talk about with checking off those boxes, he checked every box, especially, and this is a big one for Tim Walton, because if you look at his recruiting classes the past couple of years, the guy has a type. And by type, I mean tall corners, lengthy corners. And Taelyn Mayo is listed at 6'3.5", 185 pounds. So,
whoa.
So, yes, this young man certainly has some length to him, and you can see it in his film too. That Mark's going to break down that whether it's in man or in zone, he certainly creates a presence for himself. He has no problem guarding against bigger wide receivers, which Ohio State obviously likes to put a guy like that on the edge. So it's easy to see why Ohio State's been near the top of his recruitment for a while. I still envision they're going to be a contender for him until the very end. We'll have to see how it goes. But, Mark, when you were evaluating the film, what were your impressions for Mr. Mayo?
Boy, there's so many kids that lie about their height and weight that when you see a legit 6'3.5", it looks like 6'5" or 6'6". That's the first thing that I noticed is, wow, this is a tall drink of water playing corner. Like, how tall is he? He's rangy. He's got long arms. Here's what I noticed about him. On this film, he does everything one time. I mean, from interceptions to playing press man to playing off man to playing safety, a little kickoff return. Watch him blow up that guy. He ran over him like he was a speed bump there. He's physical. There's a couple hits on this film where you're like, geez, oh man, this kid's going to be a safety. The way he turns around a man-to-man coverage there. Watch the hit here.
Yo.
Yeah, talk about
the helmet came off.
Yeah, I mean the over the top zone coverage to flip his hits there, the tight coverage on the goal line there to cut across that ball at the last second. You name it. they have this kid doing it in high school. I don't know how much of this film we're going to get into because we know we keep some of it premium, and I'm giving Dan the heads up there. But there wasn't like 10 clips of him blowing people up, but there was like 1 or 2 of everything you wanted to see. And Bobby Taylor, there were some long corners in the NFL. Richard Sherman's probably the most famous, and not a lot of them always make it. I know Dallas had a couple tall guys a few years ago that Dan and I talked about. I don't think they ever really came to fruition.
Let's address that real quick.
Yeah.
6'3.5". I'm not sure. I'd have to look this up. I don't think there are 5 cornerbacks in the NFL that are 6'3.5" or taller right now. Now, I'm not saying he can't do it.
No.
Maybe he's the guy to do it. And look, that'd be tremendous. But that is legitimately tall. Even Bobby Taylor was probably 6'2", 6'3". Bobby Taylor, of course, played at Notre Dame and then had a really nice career with the Eagles. Was the for memory's sake, it was him and Troy Vincent that they kind of had. But that is really tall.
You say that for defensive backs because of the back pedal. It's really hard to get their butts low and those long levers. And that's what you basically have is longer working levers. Those legs take longer to backpedal. Now, you get the advantages of it, though. The length, the reach, all that type of stuff comes into play. So it's one of those things where you throw them out there. Cromartie, Antonio Cromartie was another long one that was really good. That's one that had no
many things.
Yeah. Dropping bombs on that. I'm thinking of all the many things. But you take these guys.
Roster?
Yeah, and then you know what? When you see him be physical, you say, you know what? This kid has outs. If he can't handle corner for whatever reason, he's a physical safety. He can move around. He can be a matchup guy. Where in the Patricia defense, hey, let's use this guy as a big nickel. I just watched some footage I sent you guys where Patricia totally evolved his defense one year because of Eugene Chung, and they went big nickel. Well, if we've been dealt the hand, kind of like last year where we played 3 safeties a lot, this is a piece of that puzzle. So, it's talent. At the end of the day, kids like this are talent. Let's see if we can turn this kid into the first-round star. If not, hey, we took a flyer on a big kid and it didn't work. You say that all the time. If you're the tight end coach, you bring in a guy who's 6'5" and he doesn't work out, everyone goes, it's okay. You bring in the 6'1" tight end that doesn't work out, you're in the help wanted ads the next morning looking for a job.
Very, very interesting. I wonder if they're not trying to recreate Nick Emanowori, and if I butchered that name, I apologize. He's become very popular in the last year because the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, and he's kind of like that 6'3" safety. A lot of the NFL teams have gone to passing out of multiple tight end sets because they're getting a bunch of mismatches out of that. And I guess this guy is not going to be a mismatch if you have him on the field. He is the mismatch.
There you go.
Good Lord. That's very impressive. Also, and I'll say this, I have displayed a bias against, and I apologize, Indiana football players. I am biased for Texas football players in the same way. I just kind of assume you're going to be good. Maybe I shouldn't be like that. All right, Garrick, any final words on what you expect to see today, who you want to see, what the people can see? I just checked the weather, 65 and overcast, which is not terrible for taking pictures.
Yeah, I wondered the same thing, whether we'd be inside or outside, but I guess that's going to be a game time decision. I'll text you guys and let you know which one it was, but I heard a lot about how physically imposing James Smith is, so I'm excited to see that, the transfer defensive lineman from Alabama. I also kind of want to see Jay Timmons, how quick and athletic he is, and whether they have him in the slot or whether they have him on the outside. That's something that I'm pretty intrigued to see. And, I mean, we've talked about Legend Bay enough to where it would be nice to see the guy.
I think everybody wants to see the first little zip-a-dip. And I was telling Dave about this. This happened a while back when Dontre Wilson was here. That's a while back for you guys. But he was a late ad. The first open practice, they clearly were trying to wet everyone's whistle. He probably looked better in that practice than he ever did on the field for Ohio State, but it still made it a very exciting practice. We will have complete and total coverage of it. Garrick will be joining multiple other Nutter employees there. We will have pictures. We will have whatever video we're allowed. Should be some real fun, and we will not forget about Turbo Rogers. How could we forget about Turbo Rogers? Have a good one, Nutters of Buck.